A Milwaukee therapist is accused of sexually exploiting his clients. Now, a Fox 6 investigation raises serious questions about how he got a counseling license in the first place.
Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson uncovers a disturbing series of arrests and the legal obstacles that may have kept the state's licensing agency in the dark.
At first glance, you may not notice, but look close and you'll see what was left of James Copening's fingertips when a grenade exploded in his hand and sent him down the path to an opiate addiction.
It's like your body needs it. You're sick without it, withdrawals.
Only this is not a story about Copening's recovery.
I'm Mr. Ramsey.
But about the man who was supposed to help him along the way.
They came into the clinic and arrested him.
Can you explain that?
George Ramsey is a licensed professional counselor and a clinical substance abuse counselor with master's degrees in counseling and psychology, a PhD in theology.
Lord, we thank you for peace upon this family.
And according to family and friends, a high degree of integrity, responsibility, and ambition.
George was...
That is not.
He was a piece of... Whew.
The man Copening remembers from his group therapy sessions at the now shuttered offices of Achievement Associates in Milwaukee.
Discharge, get out! Get out of here!
But it's what the counselor is accused of doing to his female clients that could not only cost him his license, it could land him in prison.
We're set for final pretrial today.
In March of 2021, the Milwaukee County DA's office charged Ramsey with 3 counts of sexual exploitation by a therapist after 3 different women accused him of making sexual advances, hugging them after sessions, unzipping their clothing, exposing himself, groping, rubbing, touching, kissing, even forcing them to perform sex acts behind closed doors. The allegations surfaced over a 3-year period at 2 locations, Achievement Associates on Fond du Lac and Ramsey's own New Beginnings Wellness Center at 35th and Sherman. But the DA did not file charges until one of the women said she feared for her life when Ramsey opened a desk drawer and showed her a gun.
We know that is a power relationship.
Ian Henderson is policy director for the Wisconsin Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
People use their positions of power not only to access victims as a means of accessing victims, they also exploit that power and the trust relationship as a means of avoiding detection.
By the time Ramsey applied for his first counseling license at the age of 46, he'd already accumulated some hefty baggage, including more than a dozen criminal arrests, at least 4 of which led to felony convictions, from strong-armed robbery in California at age 24 to escape from custody in Milwaukee at 35 and illegal possession of a gun at 43.
I don't see how a convicted felon is a licensed therapist.
Copening says Ramsey would brag in sessions about his own history of drug addiction.
Me and my boys used to kick it, we go get some crack, and, you know, those were the good old days.
But Camille Cooper says that alone doesn't mean he'd make a bad therapist.
A lot of substance abuse counselors are recovering, and that's why they make terrific counselors.
Cooper is vice president of the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAIN, and she's far more troubled by something else we found in Ramsey's past.
I think it's definitely concerning.
Between 1997 and 2002, 4 different Milwaukee women told police they'd been raped.
Do you know what the common thread is? You were arrested for all 4 of them.
A 25-year-old prostitute, 25-year-old homeless woman, 47-year-old acquaintance, and 38-year-old childhood friend all told Milwaukee police Ramsey sexually assaulted them. 2 say he was armed with a knife. 1 said he tried to kill her as she called 911 from a payphone, naked and bleeding. But prosecutors never charged him with any of those crimes because, according to police, the victims were uncooperative.
This might be just another example, sadly, of that particular system failing survivors.
Who listens to an addict nowadays?
Instead of flagging Ramsey as a potential serial rapist after 4 arrests in 5 years, the cases were filed away, and 4 years later, Ramsey filed an application to become a substance abuse counselor in training.
Should this person be in a position of trust, especially in a therapeutic context?
The Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services did run a background check on Ramsey, but we'll never know what was in the files because DSPS has already destroyed them. They only keep application-related records for 5 years, and a DSPS spokesperson says the sexual assault arrests may not have been included if they did not lead to criminal charges.
We call that falling through the cracks, and you've clearly identified a huge gaping crack there.
Cooper says it's a serious problem without an easy solution, since state law only allows employers to ask about convictions or pending charges, not arrests.
I'm not quite sure where it would land from a legal context.
I think it is a tough one.
What we do know is that Ramsey had multiple convictions, 4 of them felonies, and the state still deemed him qualified to hold a position of trust.
How did you get a therapy license with a record like that?
A trust he is now accused of violating over and over again.
We're not going to make any comments. You need to do better research.
Our research speaks for itself.
Because I told George.
James Copening says he is speaking for victims who don't have a voice.
You're going to come down one day, and I pray to God that I can watch you come down because you're just abusive. He's an abusive man.
Ramsey is currently free on $7,500 cash bond. He's not allowed to practice therapy while the case is pending, and he's supposed to tell the court where he lives and where he works. But for the past year, he's been telling a pretrial services agency called Justice Point that he lives here at North Point Apartments in Brown Deer. They tell me that's not true. He says he works at a temp agency in Greenfield. The company says that's also wrong. Justice Point says that is self-reported information. They don't actively verify it. Ramsey set for trial coming up in June. Brian Polson, Fox 6 Investigators.